Insert obligatory Sony take notes quote here.
I like the jingle that they use.
I was gonna say that, and they already have some really much higher presentation value than the other one.
Yeah, I mean, they actually did get the original composer of the Streets of Rage games and Beyond Oasis, among others, to make an original composition for the Sega Genesis Mini, or the Mega Drive Mini for those that don't live in the U.S.
Right.
Aha.
Well, I see Wally
So
Wars.
yeah, this is the Sega Genesis Mini, which is pretty much, well, currently one of the best classic mini consoles that are currently out on the market, and which comes packed with roughly around 40 games, like this unreleased version of Tetris.
Why was
Really?
it unreleased?
The fabled Genesis port is finally available to play here.
Long story short, Hype, back in the day when this version was being made, Sega forgot to read that one part of the copyright papers that says that Nintendo technically owned the license to make Tetris games for their consoles.
Oops.
So that's why Sega, unfortunately, could not release this version of the game up until now.
Okay, so I guess that copyright wore off.
Well, no, yeah, you get Tetris. I mean, yeah, Tetris is now like you have. First of all, you have Tetris Effect on Sony. Tetris is far more universal. It's more like self-inclusive.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm surprised that it's not basically like public domain, for lack of a better word.
Well, that's
Probably
because, well,
is.
to be fair, there's also the matter that there is a company that owns the Tetris name, and well, they're the ones that give out the licenses and everything. But yeah, this is the Sega excuse me.
Sorry.
This is the Sega Genesis version of Tetris, and boy, does it feel as old as it looks.
It looks a little clunky, but at least you can like speed drop. And can you hard drop, or not in this version?
You can't hard drop. You can't hold your Tetraminos. None of that. This is like Tetris at its very basic concept.
Also, gotta say, for some of the blocks it's okay, but for some of them, man, the colors do not feel right.
They don't, and for that matter, this is a little odd thing that you don't really see me do an awful lot, because this is by the time I actually had some practice in. But when trying to spin the Tetraminos, you actually have to be careful, because if you actually like with these blocks, for example, if you move to like the very edge of the play field, you actually it's almost next to impossible to actually properly turn them.
Huh.
Like it feels that clunky, and yeah.
That's
But I
odd,
mean,
actually,
it's
okay.
still fun to me that, well, of one of the biggest highlights of the Genesis Mini, there were 2 unreleased games that were put on it, and this was one of them. And it's like, I applaud them for doing so in the first place. It's just that, Tetris has come a very long way since this.
Yes.
So what exactly, unless we're actually going to be showing it off later in the video, what's the other game that was unreleased until now?
Well, I'm not going to show it off, because honestly, I'm not really the biggest stickler for those kinds of games, but the other game that was released for the Genesis Mini was an exclusive version of Darius.
Huh. What's Darius again?
Darius is pretty much one of those horizontal space shooters.
Oh, so
not
it's
to be
like
confused
Gradius.
with. Yeah, I was saying not to be confused with Gradius. I think it's a same matter though.
Yeah, it was from a different public. I think it was Taito that owns it, and at this
Jeff,
point, I'm like,
I didn't know.
screw it. I don't like how oddly that iguana there or that Komodo dragon is staring at me. So
I think it's a Komodo dragon.
Donkey Kong is very disappointed in you, James. Look at him.
Oh, look at that Donkey Kong over there.
That's what I was saying. He's very disappointed. He's like, oh man,
Hey,
I'm out of here.
bad Boone, bad.
Let's see.
So how? First off, how much is the Genesis Mini?
The Genesis Mini, from what you know what? Let me actually look that up, because I honestly forget, but I want to say it's roughly around $80 or so. Let me check.
Oh, that being
But
said,
I did pre-order this bad boy right when it was announced, because back in the day I was sort of a Genesis kid. It was like one of the big consoles I got to play while I was visiting my folks over at Bakersfield. And okay, yeah, it's $80.
Okay, well, I mean, for 40 games, the novelty of it, does it come with 2 controllers?
Yes, it does.
Then I feel like there's enough there to warrant it.
I'd say so. And unlike, say, the Sega Genesis Classics collection for consoles, which was handled by like some other B-rate studio that didn't know a thing or two about proper emulation, this one was this whole entire collection here was handled by M2, like Sega's big boys when it comes to their legacy stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like with the Genesis Mini especially, like they got a good handful of publishers to help them out, like Capcom here. with their own special port of Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yep.
Yeah,
in
not to
fact,
confuse with Super Ghosts and Goblins, which remade
Yeah.
this. Oh,
in fact, they even went so
that.
far as to get Disney off their high horse and let them put both the Illusion games on here.
which that was very interesting.
Honestly, shocked the living heck out of me. Like, I would never expect Disney to be so willing to let Sega put the Illusion games on this Classics thing. It kind of makes me
Yeah.
wish that Nintendo went the similar strides to get like the Magical Quest games on there. No,
Yeah.
dang
I
it,
will say,
Arthur.
though, that actually makes me very worried because I assume they didn't bother putting Lion King or Aladdin on the SNES Classic because they had already made plans of their own to remake them. So
Right.
now it makes me think, wow, they're never doing anything with Illusion again.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'd be shocked if there ever was like re-releases of those games at this point in time. But it's like, well, we can get more into that whenever the Aladdin and Lion King collection comes out. But anywho,
Oh,
yeah,
jeez.
Ghouls and Ghosts here. Now, the funny thing about this version of the game is that while this was technically Capcom's property, this was back in the. Oh,
Okay.
don't mind me. I'm just off to.
Ow.
Don't
Wow.
mind me, I'm just going to go play with my Sega Genesis.
This is what I get for trying to mess with Loki and his forces.
Hey,
you
kids! I'm over here playing with my Master System.
That's the hip new console the kids are raging. Anyway, so I
Sega
guess
does what Nintendo. But anyway, yeah. So basically, when it came to porting like some of the Capcom classics onto the Genesis, I think the work was primarily handled by Sega. Like they actually recreated the game from the ground up while using whatever references they got from Capcom, and that's, I mean, it helps make these ports particularly solid in a way. Like they don't really feel too slapped.
well, the Squidward trees look on with disdain. At all that they survey.
I'd have to go back because I actually didn't notice the Squidward
Yeah,
trees.
I think there's some up here. No, okay, that's just the normal tree.
Oh, well.
But we got a. Oh, hello.
Hello.
None shall pass.
I thought you were
Whoa.
just a stone statue, but I guess they didn't have enough in their budget to actually make you one.
Well, that took effort.
Take a key for coming in. Aw, thank you. I feel so welcomed.
Woohoo!
I guess I should ask. Whereas the SNES Classic has save states, all these different features, CRT filters are. What sort of quality? Oh, I guess we're gonna look at some of those. What sort of quality of life things does the Genesis Mini come with?
Comes with the typical save states, and yeah, it's pretty much all the same stuff that you got from the original, like the Nintendo's classic stuff. Like again, save states, CRT filters and whatnot, and I think that's really all there is to it. Though I do also know that there's a language selection thing, which actually does change the games to their native Japanese versions, which is also most apparent if you want to say play Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. If you switch to the Japanese build, you get the original Puyo Puyo instead.
Does that also apply with Rystar? Because I know the story in that game was different than it was in Japan.
It would if Rystar was on this fucking collection.
It
That's
isn't.
lame.
It's not. Unfortunately, there are, as much as I do appreciate the amount of games that are on this collection, there's still a handful I kind of wish they did put in. Like, there's Quackshot, Rystar, Rocket Knight Adventures, I think is probably one of the biggest things missing from this collection.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought Rocket Knight would have been on here.
It would have been great, considering the fact that Konami already was able to get likes of Castlevania Bloodlines and Contra Hardcore onto the thing.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like any other ones. Stuff like Altered Beast or Comic Zone on it. Oh boy.
Altered Beast is still on there. Alex Kidd's still on that, and I mean, I can sort of understand why. They're kind of like Sega's big legacy stuff beyond Sonic 1 and 2. Oh, another thing they weren't able to add into the collection: Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Ouch.
Well, yeah, that's always the weird thing I've noticed with Sega. Whenever they try to like port over like Sonic 3, it's only either Sonic and Knuckles by itself or just Sonic 3 by itself. They never put Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Well, there's also the matter of fact that when it comes to Sonic 3, I mean, we all know about the whole big debacle that was, well, the OST for the game, which apparently was handled by the people that helped make Michael Jackson's songs.
Yes, they were.
And boy, did it show with the likes of Ice Cap.
Well, I mean, again, like there's that, there's that already that famous like comparison that outright compares it to other songs.
Also, I should apologize real quick. This is another game that I kind of had, like, the series in general. I sort of wanted to get some representation. This is Fantasy Zone, or Super Fantasy Zone, as it is for the Genesis version, where you're playing as this cute little spaceship called Opa Opa, and your job is to take out all these enemy ships that are spewing out more enemies.
Yes.
And once you do that, you have to fight a boss, and sometimes these bosses can feel borderline bullet heavy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Baby's first Toho.
Oh, pretty much. And
of course, they're also just plain big.
Oop.
Almost.
Oop.
Almost.
Man, this game sucks.
Well, I love this. I do like this game. It's just that, yeah, it could really pull some pretty nasty punches if you're not prepared.
Curse you, Kirby Toho. So yeah, other than that,
Actually, those Batmans do look Kirby-esque.
now, were there any games that outright surprised you on being included in this?
Well, again, there's the castle. There's the Disney. Well, there's the Castle and World of Illusion games, which I'll just say right now, it kind of pained me inside, but I decided not to show them off for this video because
We've done enough.
a good handful of us here are already sick of me playing it to death.
A handful of us have seen you play them more than once now.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, it won't be the last time.
Welcome to the buggy release of Strider.
Yeah, Strider for the Genesis, which, I mean, it's funny, considering that this was also very much one of the big Herald Genesis classics, even though it started as an arcade release. And I will agree that upon replaying it, and, well, I've had more experience with the arcade game anyway, yeah, it's pretty clear that the Genesis wasn't able to handle all the awesome 2D side-scrolling action that Strider here can provide.
But
where's this sick red neckerchief that covers his chin?
I don't know.
I'll just say this right now, Hype. This is before he got the bitching scarf.
Oh, okay.
But I will take this over the NES Strider.
Yeah, well, I feel very conflicted with that version of the game, because it was clear they were trying to do something different. It's just that they didn't give that game enough, TLC.
Gotcha. Whoop.
They needed some prime quality testers, but I think those same people were too busy helping out with the latest Mega Man games.
Right, which I noticed. That's another game that I think we noticed is I think we talked about this already. Is that Wily Wars wasn't released in America for the longest time?
Oh yeah, no, Mega Man: The Wily Wars. That's another big surprise that they added onto the system, especially because unless you were one of those few people that actually had the Sega Channel way back in the mid '90s. The only way you could play that game was through getting it off a Genesis or a PAL cart, or Yar Harrit. And even then, this is the very first time since the Sega Channel where we actually have a release of the original North American Sega Channel classic.
Sweet.
And I will say this right now, I will not be showing off Wily Wars in this video, because that's actually something I'm going to dedicate to its own series of videos.
Well, now, I guess one thing I can ask about, just in terms of Strider himself here, well, both on and I was about to say both on and off topic with Strider here. How was that one PS360 game with him turned out? Was that any good?
It is really good. I mean, I will admit it's one of those games that you don't hear people talk about. But from what I played of it, the attempt at it was actually really pretty solid. And it's funny to think about it because it was made by the same people that would go on to make that one Killer Instinct reboot.
Interesting.
I was gonna say what the?
Also, I love how suddenly here the freaking
the Council of Elders has become the freaking centipede demon.
Wow, I never would have thought this was Soviet Russia's master plan this whole time.
I'm so sorry. I have to say this. Can we say that this was a centipede designed by committee?
Yes, it was.
Well, that's better than what I was about to say. I was going to say, finally, a family-appropriate version of the Human Centipede.
That too. You're going to never defeat the master.
Unfortunately, the Genesis version did not keep the surprisingly decent voice acting from the arcade original. Where it's funny because in the original game, they actually went to the trouble of having every character speak their actual language. You had that one old guy that speaks Russian, and the Grandmaster himself who speaks English, and then you got Strider who speaks Japanese.
What's funny?
I'm sorry. I love the context of that. One wolf, too easy. Two wolves. Nah, I'm done.
There's only so many wolves I'm willing to put up with today.
Oh, cool, Bloodlines.
Now, I will say this much about this particular entry. Up until this, and to a certain and well, obviously the Castlevania collection that came out some time ago. Castlevania Bloodlines never got a re-release on anything
Wow.
up until now.
It's kind of silly, but yeah, this was.
Yes, it is, and honestly, I mean, I'm showing this off now, but I will definitely be showing this off again whenever we do like the Konami Classic stuff, because honestly, I think that's worth doing a look at on in and of itself. But like, it's honestly interesting the history behind this game and how just how it pretty much stuck to its roots for the longest time.
John Morris or Eric Lecarde? Why are neither of these Belmonts?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so Castlevania Bloodlines takes place far into the future, just sometime after the Belmont Legacy. It's sort of, for lack of a better word, gone missing, or pretty much not quite as prevalent as they used to be. So it's up to their good friends, the Morrises and the Lacards, to take on their legacy.
And thus we will learn that the true Belmont were the friends we made along the way.
And you don't even need a whip to do the job, as Eric Lacard here, wielding the Alcardi spear, totally not in his translation, will show us.
It kind of looks like, because of the sprite, it keeps going back and forth between looking like a pitchfork and a shovel.
I would say I thought it was a trident, but now it looks more like a freaking halberd actually, where when it like extends out into an axe. But yeah, this is Dracula's castle again. What can we do here?
Yeah, it is. And though that being said, though, in this game, you're not just going through Castlevania in and of itself. You're actually going through all across Europe to stop this rampaging supernatural threat that pretty much threatens the entire continent.
Is it another cult trying to bring back Dracula, or is it like
pretty much? Yeah, like honestly. This game actually takes an awful lot of inspiration from the actual Bram Stoker novels, like even more so than like the original Castlevania stuff. Like, I know that the main villainess is supposed to be based on some sort of literature. I just don't immediately remember what it is. And well, she's brought back her long dead uncle from the dead.
Uncle Lordy.
I was gonna say, yeah, looking at this here, I mean, so far this pretty much is note for note Castlevania 1-1, which is nice. Kind of familiar territory.
This is fair, considering, again, this is pretty much the very first level. They wanted to make you feel like you're back at home, and then throw you in for a loop when you actually have to start, well, going from place to place on your own 2 feet.
So I guess I can ask, like, even though these guys are not Belmonts, do they feel like Belmonts?
John Morris does. Eric here, though, feels a slight bit different than typical Belmont. And that, well, again, he wields a spear / trident, and he pretty much has better aim with it than John does with his whip.
That vampire bat wasn't too big. Oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake. Die. Aw, missed the axe.
Yeah. But yeah, this will be no problem. But then you bring in until you come across the Hellhound.
Yeah, I was about to say. Someone needs to take care of the poor thing, like it's half decomposed.
Someone tell him that when you digest food, it's supposed to go through your entire body before it leaves you.
Yeah. Also, I mean, true to its American namesake, this game is probably the most graphic the franchise was at that point.
Ooh.
Yeah, and dead.
Like, look at this guy. He's clearly writhing in pain after having his top half of his body just mutilated.
Jeez, just stop. Just
it's
kill
like,
him.
okay, there you go. Like, I was wondering why it was just staying there. It's like, ooh, look at it pulsate.
It's like, gosh, take it outside. Alright, that seems solid.
So yeah, more on that whenever we do the Castlevania collection. So, let's see, what was the next game I cover for this little video? I was tempted, mind you, but I decided, I should do that another time.
Oh, cool, the Genesis Earthworm Jim, even.
Well, yeah, you know, it was inevitable. We're talking about the Genesis, we might as well.
Hooray!
Of course, you can't do a Sega Genesis related video unless you bring up Sonic the Hedgehog.
And you know what? I'm content with this because I'm not quite sure if I've ever brought up in a video. If I have, I apologize for the repetition. But even though I respect a lot of what Sonic 3 and Knuckles did, I actually think Sonic 2 is my favorite of the trilogy.
I think Sonic 2 is one of the best ones.
I mean, again, I still hold much more appreciation for the likes of Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic CD, but I mean, Sonic 2 is still a stellar game in its own right. Hell, it was the very first Sonic game I ever played.
And of course, good old Green Hill Zone, and I mean, everybody knows it's. I mean, Emerald Hill, sorry, that's right, Green Hill Zone. Okay, Emerald Hill Zone. Again, I'm confused. Uh-oh.
It's much prettier than Green Hill. I mean, look at that vibrant sea.
And listen to that track.
And unpopular game fact, I like Emerald Hill's theme more than Green Hill's theme.
Well, to be fair, I think I like them just fine. I think it's just a matter of considering how many Devil Name times we've gone to Green Hill. It's kind of to a point where it's like, we can remember Emerald Hill was a thing, right?
But I actually, sorry, whenever I think of Sonic 2 now, I unfortunately think of, not unfortunately, I like the joke. I like the bit Hippopotamus 2. Or Tomatopotamus 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Tomatopotamus.
Oh, yeah. Tomatopotamus 2. That's the best in the series!
Yeah,
Like,
Tomatopotamus would have worked.
I won't lie, that was a slight bit of a small burn.
It was. At themselves.
But no, I love that, and I love Tomato. But I do like Tomatopotamus. But I guess the joke they're making is that Sonic 2 is one of the more, like, universally heralded.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like
2D Sonics.
whenever I talk to people, the two games that they usually cite as being like their gateway into the series are either one of the adventure games or this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Uh-oh.
And yes, I figure you guys are sick of seeing me as Sonic, so I decided to pick Tails.
That's fine.
I meant to do that.
I mean, this is the game he debuted in.
Of course.
Emerald Hill is cool, but I still genuinely now have, like, after hearing various remixes of the theme, I have a soft spot in my heart for Chemical Plant now.
Well, Chemical Plant's wonderful.
Yeah, it was pretty good, but honestly, it's pretty much second behind Green Hill for being one of the more overused zones in the Sonic series.
That is fair.
In more recent titles, yes.
I mean, granted, I still agree though that it's still a bitching theme, and
I still think. Oh hey! Oh jeez! I still think Ice Cap is more memorable than Sky Sanctuary.
And you know damn well they're never going to bring that whole thing back unless they replace the music entirely.
They have to.
One thing I would say, I know this might be kind of a controversial opinion, but why not use the version of Ice Cap that they used in certain re-releases of Sonic 3, like they did for the PC?
I mean, in all fairness, I wouldn't be against that. Just make the quality of the song a million times better.
It is fair, and you did it, Tails. Oh, don't you be cheeky with me. You saved the day. Oh gosh, okay, get him off screen.
Get this kid off the stage!
Get him off the set.
He's too young to be driving.
So yeah, that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for on our whole look at on this Sega Genesis Mini. Again, a very solid collection for a hip $80 price tag, which will probably not go down anytime soon.
Nah.
Suck it, Sony.
It's okay.
But, yeah, I mean, if you like what you saw, and if you have any sort of interest in this collection, I mean, again, this is a pretty solid collection. Like, again, you got the Wily Wars, you got Monster World 4, Earthworm Jim, and the Illusion games. You'll never get a sweeter deal off of something from Sega.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, actually, now I think about it, I think this even has more games than the NES and SNES classics did.
Oh, no, dude. Like, it literally has, like, just as many, if not more so, than the two of them combined.
Nice. Yeah. Solid work, Sega.
I will say this much though. I do personally think when it comes to like overall quality, I still think Nintendo sort of beats them out, considering the fact that I'd still say that half of the games on the Genesis collection aren't quite as memorable as stuff you'll find on the Super Nintendo.
Fair.
But otherwise, I mean, still, it's a solid collection, and I do think it's well worth the investment.
Now
and also, I'll say this much before we end off. Let us be very thankful that it was M2 that did this thing and not freaking At Games.
Yeah.
Were they the people that did the Sony one?
No. You know, considering the quality, it would be. It honestly would feel just as bad. But no, you know all those other like plug-in Sega Genesis that were out before the Sega Genesis Mini was a thing.
I remember that's why it caught me off guard to see him do it again.
Yeah, like they were almost gonna do this as well. And it's like, and first off, I imagine that'd be like very freaking redundant. And secondly, well, they're bastards, like pure and simple. Like, they took the rights from Miss Pac-Man from Namco, for Pete's sakes. They have no soul.
They cut corners. They did a lot of that. But yeah, so now at this point, all we're really missing is, I guess...
a CDI Mini.
I was saying, I think Atari needs to jump in there and do something decent.
I'm pretty sure... I thought Atari already did. But...
I don't think they like capitalize as much as the other big ones are doing right now. I feel like I think the issue I've seen with Atari is they kind of piecemeal their plug and plays, where they're like, that's the thing is, like, you know, this Genesis Mini, the SNES and NES classics, they didn't feel like plug and play games. They felt a little bit higher standards, maybe. I don't know. Maybe
yeah, but I mean, granted, that's also because Atari games are just, well, they're pretty much the most primitive of console stuff.
True.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing I'll say before we do end off. I mean, I think it's no. I'm pretty sure it's no. There's no doubt that the Sega Genesis has become very successful. Maybe not as much as the Nintendo classic stuff, but just as much. But yeah, not Lilissa. But I will say this: I really hope that this will persuade Sega to possibly consider a Saturn or Dreamcast Mini.
Oh, I'd love those two. Dreamcast especially.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll stop there, folks. Take care, guys.
Finally, I can play Sonic Shuffle in peace.
I'm just saying, a CDI Mini, you'd have the YouTubers by the wallets.